Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Now, I'm going to warn everybody before I start that this is going to be a controversial video. I'm going to talk about politics and I'm going to talk about religion. So, if you don't want to hear about my view on politics and you don't want to hear about my view on religion, I suggest you just go ahead and tune out. This is going to be the one time that I'm going to address this, and then I'm going to consider this to be a settled issue. So we'll get to that as the main topic, just so you're forewarned. This is the daily chart of silver provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. I've drawn out these trend lines because it appears that we're making a bottom. It's a very, very long-term bottom, but you can see we're rounding up out of a flag formation. Pretty much ever since the election, we've been rallying. The stocks, of course, are turning down. Now, when we have those types of downdrafts, if you followed the blog, you'll see that I posted a chart of the Dow, and it appears that the Dow is turning down. So if the Dow turns down and we get a serious deflationary downdraft, of course, I've mentioned before that the market, or whoever the players are in the market, and I don't really know, are going to be calling the bluff of Obama and Congress about the issue of capital gains taxes. And it's pretty simple mathematics. If you sell now, you're going to avoid the capital gains later. Now, I've been following Apple very, very closely, and Apple made a significant breakdown today. You can see here the rounding pattern. We're rounding down. I've pointed out before that the trend line was already broken, and then we have another trend line here. So the target for Apple is going to be down below 500. I don't expect it to take very long to get there. And then, of course, this support line is absolutely key, because this support line here, if it's breached, you can see that there really just isn't a lot of support because it was a straight up run, and it'll probably be a straight down run to this support area here, and that's about 427. Again, when we look at the long-term chart, it's crystal clear that this is a bubble, and the way that bubbles end, even if it's not a bubble, even if it's just something like this, you can see that you get at least a 60% correction. So a 60% correction is going to take us down around in here. Now, the last chart I want to look at is going to be the Dow, because I want to show you that line that we're seeing that is now being broached, and that is this key support line. It's harder to draw on the weekly. It depends on which touch points you pick. I know a lot of people have criticized me for the type of graphs that I use, and the whether the scale is logarithmic, etc. I use what has worked for me in the past, and that's what I'm used to, so that's what I use. So we are rounding down now, and there seems to be a penetration of this line. Will it be a cascading decline like this decline? I don't know. If it is, it could be very drastic. Now, there's some reason to believe that that's going to be the case. My primary reason for believing that, and I've said this many times, as George Carlin has been quoted as saying, they're coming for your retirement and they're going to get it. Now, they're not going to be able to make a credible argument that you don't have the ability to invest your own funds if you've doubled your money since 2009. Now, if the market goes back down to here and all of those gains are given back, they'll have a much more credible argument to try to put you into long-term bonds. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. Now, let's get over to the questions of the night before I get over to the main topic of the night. The first one is from Jova Biljan about shorting Apple stock. Brother John, I have a quick question. I understand you could potentially make a good profit shorting Apple since it's in a bubble. My question is, how would a highly inflationary environment affect the shorts? Would you lose money if the stock in value collapses but nominally terms takes off? Well, excellent question. That's true. If stocks don't keep their inflation adjusted gains, and you can see from this chart, let's take off all the lines. You can see from this chart that stocks were at about almost 12,000 back in the year 2000. That's the Dow. The other indices have different results. But this is not exactly the best inflation adjusted return. And depending upon which inflation adjusted figures you use, probably you're going to be standing at a loss right now. Probably a loss even here, because you got to realize this is nearly now a 14-year period with just a very small percentage of gains. So yes, even if you're right, you can be wrong. And next question, the cashless society's effect on precious metals. This is from Illini 825. Hi, Brother John. I've been following your posts for a couple of months now and appreciate the information you're providing. I have a couple of questions, but they all pertain to digital currency. How would gold or silver be affected if we move to a digital currency such as Bitcoin? Do you think there will be a mechanism to sell your precious metals for digital currency? Or will digital currencies render precious metals obsolete, except in the black market? Do you favor a digital currency such as Bitcoin over silver? Why or why not? Well, there's a lot of questions there. First thing you need to understand is that we already are in the age of digital currencies. The vast, vast majority of the money supply, and we're talking 99+%, is digital. The amount of cash that's out there is minuscule. Now, there have been controversial stories. Some people have pointed out that you can't find bills newer than 2009. I challenge you to look at any bills that you come across and see if you find a date stamped later than 2009. As to what that means, I don't know, but I would guess that they're probably going to issue a new currency, and they're holding off on that. What they're waiting for, I can't say. Now, the other issue is, as far as Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or other currencies, again, I've pointed out with markets, you'll always have black markets. There's no way around the fact that you're going to have black markets. No government has ever been able to suppress black markets in the history of the world. I don't even think a totalitarian world government would be able to suppress black markets. You saw in the New Jersey Hurricane Sandy situation, you had people standing in line waiting for gas, and there would be people who would drive up and pay them $50 for 5 gallons of gas, and they just get back in line. That's a black market. That's how black markets work, and you're just never going to be able to get rid of black markets. So yes, gold and silver will sell for whatever currency that's out there. They may sell for barter. They may do gold for silver exchanges. They may sell gold and silver for bitcoins or some other cryptocurrency. There's any number of things that can happen. Black markets are never going to go away. And the last question is on China's ghost cities. This is from King Bong. Hi, Brother John. I recently found out about your channel and I love it. I just saw your video you posted about the movie Looper and how they're hinting at how China will flourish and silver will be seen as a means of currency. Do you think it's possible that China is going to try and populate their ghost cities, such as the ones mentioned in this video, and there's a YouTube link, with people who hold precious metals come the time of the collapse? Thank you. Well, I've already addressed the issue of China's ghost cities. I don't really believe they are ghost cities. I've done an entire video and an entire blog post dedicated to the province specifically. It's in Lower Mongolia, where they're planning to hold a lot of festivities there and things. I don't think these are ghost cities. Honestly, I think if you want to see a ghost city, you should go and visit Detroit, because certain parts of Detroit are now going back to wilderness. People have left there. The population has been cut in half. They're having to level entire neighborhoods, force people to move out. A lot of parts of it are going back to farmland, going back to wild. So if you want to talk about ghost cities, You need to look at the former industrial areas of America. There's where your ghost cities are located. So let's get to the main story of the night. This is the big controversy. This is about the election and the shakeups that we're seeing. The news is flowing fast and furious. It's hard for me to even keep up on the news as the news comes up. But I'm going to address the election. I'm going to sprinkle some religion in there. And so, again, I warned people who don't want to hear about religion or politics, because those are the two things you're not supposed to talk about. A lot of people have asked me about those things, so I'm going to go ahead and answer. I'm going to spend one video, one episode talking about what I believe, because people have asked me what I believe, and then I'm going to be done with pretty much politics and religion, because this is a silver channel and it's mainly about silver. But I'm going to go ahead and address these issues because so many people have asked me to address the issues. So let's talk about the issue of the election. There is a lot of rancor going on right now in the country. We have these, well, I won't say crazy, but I'll say silly petitions to secede, and strange stuff going on. It's even hitting the mainstream media. And there's a lot of rumors about this being a stolen election. And so I want to address that. And President Obama, I want to address that issue. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and I want you to think about these questions. And then I'm going to give you my response to these questions. And this will indicate some of what I believe. The first question I want you to answer is, do you talk to people? Because I do talk to people. I talk to a lot of people. I'm around a lot of people, and I work with people, and I interact with a lot of people. So I get an opportunity to gauge what people believe, where they stand, and what their views are. And I can tell you this, I am in a very, very extreme minority. In fact, I'm in such a minority that oftentimes I have to couch the things that I say with some crazy talk just to make sure that people don't know whether I'm joking or telling them the truth about certain things. So obviously I consider myself an extreme minority in my views, and I tend towards a conservative view economically, conservative socially, but some libertarian views mixed in there. Nevertheless, I would say, first of all, on the election issue, if you talk to people like I talk to people, my first question would be, do you think this election was stolen? Because the people that I've talked to, for the most part, support Obama. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but I am saying that that's what I've found. So if you found something different from your relatives or from your acquaintances or from your coworkers, I'd be curious to know, because the majority that I've spoken to actually are Obama supporters. So that's going to be one. Now, was this election stolen? I don't know. And it's far too late to ask. We're going to get down to that in some of the next questions. Now, the next question is going to be, was this the first rigged election? Now, if you believe this was a rigged election, and I honestly don't know whether it was or not, when we get down to the other questions, you'll see that I don't believe there's a way to even know at this point. But certainly, if you're a student of history, as I am, you could not conclude that this is the first potentially rigged election. We have the ballot boxes floating in the river in Chicago with the Nixon and Kennedy election. We have the election rancor in Florida in the 2000 Bush election. And we'll talk about some of the vote issues in some of the further questions. But do you really believe, if this was rigged election, which I don't know, but if you do believe it was rigged, do you believe it's the first rigged election? Okay, next question. Does Obama do what he's told? Now, for me, that's going to be the key issue. Do I believe that the president really has any power? No, I don't. I believe the president does what he's told, just like the generals do what they're told, just like the senators do what they're told. just like the representatives do what they're told. And if they don't do what they're told, then there's a lot of dirty laundry that can come up if they don't. So for me, it's pretty clear that Obama has done exactly what he's been told to do. Now, he has clearly betrayed the anti-war left. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he has clearly betrayed the civil libertarian left. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We're starting to see cuts coming down on social services. You saw that under Clinton, who was the first one to reform welfare. So I think that from what he's done, from betraying his base and doing what Wall Street, we did not see any indictments from Wall Street. We did see John Corzine get thrown under the bus today. Now, that was by a Republican Congress, so I don't know what that means. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. But we did not see him take down the banks, and we did not see him take down Wall Street. So what I would have to conclude from that is that Obama is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's doing what he's told. Now, next question. Did you ever read the book Votescam? Now, if you ever read that book came out a long time ago, and that book's main thesis was about how they call the elections based on exit polls. Now, this has been the case for many, many years, that they are calling elections based on exit polls. Why would you do exit polls, and why would you use that as a basis to determine who won the election? The whole thing is absolutely silly. And I've addressed before on the blog that there's a perfectly reasonable way, using encryption, using machines, and using paper printouts from those machines with verifiable encrypted codes that are publicly and privately verifiable. You could have free, open, and fair elections. Now, why didn't they do that before this election? Why didn't they do that before the last election? Why haven't they done that for any election? So go ahead and read that if you're curious. And the last question is, do you watch professional wrestling? I have seen professional wrestling occasionally, and to me it's just silly. I don't watch professional wrestling. I know some people who watch professional wrestling. I've never really met a person who honestly believes that professional wrestling is real. I mean, who would really, when challenged, really down to the core, I've never met somebody who really argued and truly believed that professional wrestling is real. I don't watch professional wrestling, and I don't vote either. So, I'm going to get to my beliefs, and this is going to be the religious part, so if you're offended, go ahead and tune out. This is what I believe, this is what I follow, and this is, if I believe that if you're a Christian, this is what you should follow. This is the answer to this issue. It's very simple. It's right here in Romans 13:1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror unto good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render, therefore, to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, and fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor. So that's my opinion. I believe that whether or not you believe that this was a legitimate election, I don't think we've had quote-unquote legitimate elections for a very, very long time. But nevertheless, we have a president, we have a new president, President Obama, and it's my opinion that I will obey this command because that's a higher command than any other command. And for all the Christians that are out there, I suggest that you do the same. And we'll talk to you next time.